Ladies and gentlemen, the starting grid as they have qualified for the Tennessee Lottery 250 at Nashville. On the pole is Riley Herbst for Stewart-Haas Racing and AJ Allmendinger for Kaulig. Then in row number 2 is Trevor Bayne for Joe Gibbs Racing and Austin Hill for Richard Childress. And then behind them are teammates Justin Allgaier and Noah Gregson. Then behind them is Jeb Burton with a great qualifying effort for Our Motorsports, and Brandon Jones for Joe Gibbs. And then behind them is Josh Berry for Junior Motorsports and Daniel Hemrick for Kaulig. And behind them is Jeffrey Earnhardt with a great qualifying effort, starting 11th for Sam Hunt Racing. And then starting next to him is Landon Castle in the 3rd Kaulig Racing entry. Then behind them, another driver with a great qualifying effort, Joe Graff Jr. in that 07 for SS Greenlight, and Ty Gibbs in the 3rd Joe Gibbs Racing entry. And then starting behind them is Brett Moffitt for Our Motorsports and Kyle Weatherman for Jesse Owuji. Then behind them is Brandon Brown for Brandon Built Motorsports, and then Tyler Reddick for Big Machine Racing. And then starting behind them, running out the top 20 is Sheldon Creed in the 2nd Richard Childress Racing entry, and Ryan Ellis for Alpha Prime Racing. And then behind them is Sam Mayer in the 4th and final Junior Motorsports entry, and Jeremy Clements for Jeremy Clements Racing. Then behind them is Stephen Parsons in the 2nd Alpha Prime Racing entry, and Ryan Sieg for RSS Racing. And then starting right behind his teammate is Parker Retzloff for RSS Racing, and Anthony Alfredo in the 3rd Our Motorsports entry. And behind them is Ryan Preece, qualified deep in the field for BJ McLeod Motorsports, and Kyle Sieg in the 3rd and final RSS Racing entry. And then starting behind them is Ryan Vargas for JD Motorsports, and Dylan Bassett for Bassett Racing. And then starting behind them is Alex LeBay for DGM Racing, and Josh Williams for BJ McLeod. And then behind them is J.J. Ailey for MBM Motorsports, and the 08 BJ McLeod, David Starr out for the flu. BJ McLeod is the fill-in driver of that number 08 this week. And then starting behind them is Myatt Snyder for Jordan Anderson Racing, and he pulled off their best ever run a couple weeks ago at Portland, the last time we saw these Xfinity cars on track. He is starting deep in the field, and Bailey Curry in the 2nd JD Motorsports entry. And then in the final row, we have Natalie Decker in the 2nd MBM Motorsports entry, and Patrick Emmerling for Emmerling Gase Motorsports. 3 cars missed the race this week. Mason Massey in the 2nd DGM Racing entry, Brennan Poole for Mike Harmon Racing, and Matt Mills in the 3rd BJ McLeod Motorsports entry. And ladies and gentlemen, there's your field for the Tennessee Lottery 250 at Nashville.